Yo, what's up, everyone? My name is Caleb,
And I'm Trevor.
and this is our inaugural episode of Coffee and Headphones. Name is 90% set. We are still not 100%, but
This is the hardest
welcome,
part.
welcome to our show.
Welcome to our show. Caleb's
Uh,
playing through an injury right now.
I'm playing through a rib injury. I've cracked or broken a rib or something like that. Um, I also have a heart monitor on right now, so I'm really giving this game everything I have. But basically, we just wanted to do something fun and casual and have like an open conversation format where we will be discussing all things that brothers would discuss, be it entertainment from hip hop to pop culture to anything of the sense basketball. And today we're talking about something that is a huge part in both of our lives, something that I think is super fitting because my brother got me into, and that is Mr. Jizzy Drake comparing his albums to Star Wars movies.
I just noticed the Six God hat.
Yeah, you see it. You
I like
see
it.
it. I
I
had to
like it.
come represent. I'm also wearing the Apex merch under here, but I can't show you because, as previously stated, broken rib.
Yeah, so we're gonna do something super interesting. I don't know if it's on the internet, and that's hard to say nowadays. So, basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna compare almost all of the Star Wars movies. Well, I think all of the Star Wars
All of the
movies,
live action movies.
all of the live action movies to almost all of Drake's albums. We're gonna exclude a couple mixtapes just because the numbers didn't line up. But yeah, we like Caleb said, it's really a free form. So we probably have two different thought processes on some of these. Some of these will probably align, but I'm super excited. I think this is super interesting.
Yeah, I'm super excited too. I guess a great place to start would just to be given a little brief summary of how we got into Drake. So I'll go first. Actually, this man right here is the reason that I ever got into Drake. I remember very specifically, very vividly, it was one night driving back from like a school function. And he put on the song, Just Hold On, We're Going Home, right when it came out as a single before the album dropped. And I was like, what? I would have been 12, right? I was like 12 when it came out. And I was like, yo, this
Yeah.
is a vibe. And slowly but surely over the next like 6 months or so, he introduced me to Nothing Was the Same. And that was the first mainstream hip hop album that I really loved. And that's how I fell in love with the prime of Drake. And as we'll discuss further in these next couple of videos, that my relationship with Drake has changed a bit, but I'm still a big supporter of his early and even recent art. I really liked his last album, which I think is going to be a topic of tension. So, how did you
Mhm.
get into Drake, Trevor?
You are correct. Um, well, I don't know if you guys know anything about growing up in a very Christian household, but I was not allowed to listen to anything but
No, I should
Christian
have
music.
mentioned that we were CCM babies.
Well, yeah, that was even a push. I was doing the frontier work for Caleb so he could listen to something other than,
Cheers.
you know, Hillsong. So
Chris Tomlin.
that's right, Chris Tomlin, man.
Hillsong wasn't even popping yet.
I started off just going to the Christian bookstore, getting CDs, listening to music that way on the radio. I branched out to Hawk Nelson. Actually, was like one of the first people I remember listening to, and POD, and then sort of moved on to rap. And I missed the So Far Gone era, but I was like right after that when things would leak on. I think it was on YouTube initially, and then I moved on to SoundCloud, and that was like my music platform that I used because it was free, and not all of us could afford Apple Music. So, So
Yeah.
Far Gone was really not my first interaction with Drake. It was Think Me Later, and then really just started becoming more and more involved with like not necessarily just his rapping, but just who he was as an artist, and really felt like I could relate. And I think that's probably why he's one of the most popular artists of all time. But really, as things progressed, nothing was the same. I was sort of going through the same type of time period that Drake was, and then after that, just if you're reading this, it's too late, and what a time to be alive, and all those things just sort of intertwined with my life and the direction it was going and what I was seeking at that time period. And Drake has sort of been an artist that I grew up with. So
Yeah.
love him or hate him, he's always gonna be around. I
He's
think he's
iconic.
he's like Mike Jack, baby. So here we are.
Hopefully not too much like my Jack. So I'm sure we'll tell you a little bit more about our experiences with hip hop specifically, because I feel like music's gonna dominate our podcast. Let's keep it real. But maybe if you want a Q&A episode or something, leave us a comment. All the 6 people that are gonna be watching this, and
Heck yeah, dude.
maybe we'll get to it. But what we're gonna do today is we're gonna start with just the prequels for Star Wars. You know, I was born in 2001, so I grew up on the prequels. Revenge of the Sith has like such a special place in my heart, and we'll get to that. So we're gonna start with just Phantom Menace today. So Trevor, do you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah, and one thing, Caleb may be playing with the injury, but I'm definitely playing behind the 8 ball because this man has a whole mixtape project dedicated to Star Wars. So,
One on the way, baby.
so I'm gonna do my best to keep up. But I don't know. To me, episode one is a lot like Thank Me Later. Just because like I'd heard some singles from So Far Gone, and obviously I'd seen some of 4, 5, and 6, but really my introduction to both like Star Wars and Drake from when I can remember is both like episode one and Thank Me Later. And I think they have a lot of comparisons and a lot of parallels. Like I think they're both really good, but not necessarily the pinnacle of either Drake's albums or the Star Wars series. I think they were both highly anticipated at the time they came out because people wanted to see what was next for Drake, and then obviously there hadn't been a Star Wars movie for what, 20 years,
Yeah, yeah, pretty
basically.
much.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of it is like also Drake, sort of the summary of Thank Me Later is Drake's talking a lot about his doubts and his insecurities and where he sees himself. And I think that's very similar to how Obi-Wan felt about Anakin and being like his master and where he sees himself going with that. And I see you shaking your head. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. That's
this
right.
man's
I put some
putting
thought
in the
into it.
work.
But it's like he's finding something not necessarily new, something that he's always been, but Obi-Wan sort of coming into his own as a master, and Drake sort of coming into his own as an artist. He's still Young Money, obviously, but now you don't have to have that co-sign by like Lil Wayne on every song to get on the billboards or anything like that. So that's sort of what I got so far. I
Nice,
mean, what do
nice.
you think?
I'm right there with you. Yeah, Thank Me Later. I also have as the Phantom Menace. For me, it's like it's because I'm young, right? I'm 21 years old. So when this album came out, I was 9 or 10. Um, and when the movie came out, I wasn't even born yet. So I caught it a bit later than everyone else. I told you, bro.
Crazy.
I'm a
A
youngster,
baby.
but I have kind of an advantage in that way because I got to digest a lot at one time. And through that, I saw like Thank Me Later and the Phantom Menace alike are a lot calmer than the rest of the movies or the album previous and the albums to come for Drake for sure. But there's still like those dramatic moments, you know, throughout the Thank Me Later album. There's highs and lows because, like you said, he's kind of coming into his own. He's trying to establish his spot in hip hop, trying to shed like the actor portrayal that he is right in this moment in time in 2010. That's when the album came out, right? 2010.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And in the same way, you know, there's those dramatic moments in the Phantom Menace with, you know, the rise of the Empire behind the scenes and obviously Darth Maul
Mhm.
showing up for, you know, the first time in centuries that the Jedi had dealt with Sith. I'd also say like it's a slower pace. The Phantom Menace is definitely the slowest Star Wars movie. And I
Yeah.
think I think Thank Me Later is also the slower pace. Drake
Um,
album, So Far Gone is also a pretty slow pace.
it
Um,
is.
but for me, I just think that the Phantom Menace has a better comparison to Thank Me Later. It's not bad, like neither are bad, but they're a little bit mediocre compared to the others. Obviously, the prequels hadn't quite established what they wanted to be by the Phantom Menace, and I think the
Right.
time jump between the next two movies really makes a difference. And Drake obviously wasn't quite who he is today. He didn't have his footing in hip hop. He was definitely on his come up. But he wasn't there yet. And neither of these two projects are like the beginning, really, because this is the
Right.
second Drake album. He had his tapes before that too. And then for the Phantom Menace, this was the first chronological, but it was coming back after 16, 17 years off. So those are
Right.
that's my take. Do you have a favorite moment from the album and the movie?
My favorite moment. I mean, whew, a favorite moment from the album. See,
Or
the album
song
is
or
something.
something?
Yeah, that it's so. Uh, Shoot.
I'll
I
go
think.
first if you want.
Oh yeah, yeah. Go
Okay,
first.
my favorite moment slash song is definitely "Find Your Love." I think that's the one song from this album that has kind of stood the test of time. Yes, it sounds dated when you listen to it, but it's still a bop, especially after seeing Kanye perform it at the concert last year. That was really cool. And then my favorite moment from the movie, obviously, Duel of the Fates. And then
Yeah.
one moment in particular is Obi-Wan jumping off from hanging off the shaft, taking Qui-Gon's lightsaber, cutting Maul in half. Even though Maul was saved by the fans later, he quote unquote killed him in that moment. That was really cool because that was Obi-Wan essentially being knighted. That was his trial. So I say
Yeah.
those are my
100%.
moments between the two.
That's definitely probably my favorite moment in the movie. I mean, maybe. I think my favorite moment from there is like either the Duel of Fates, obviously. I mean, that's iconic, or when Padme and Captain Onaka, I think that's how you say his name.
Panaka, I believe.
Tanaka, yeah, yeah, yeah. When they were like running around the city when they were destroying the droids,
Yeah.
and like really, it's if you watch them in not chronological order, but like the order of like 1 through 9, it's the first taste you really get of like the rebellion can do something even like with being very outnumbered, and I just think that's so cool. And I think my favorite song from Think Me Later is probably Over. I mean, I just have always felt not that it's underrated because it has a lot of
Certainly
plays,
not underrated.
but listen here, when people think about that album, they think about different songs like Shut It Down and Show Me
Yeah.
a Good Time and
Bro, I
Karaoke and Fireworks, you know?
this is bringing back a memory. We, for some reason, for some brief moment in time, shared like an an iTunes library or something. So your songs were on my phone, um,
Mhm.
and yeah, a couple songs from Thank Me Later were on there, and Over was one of them, and Shut It Down was one of them too. So it just
Yeah.
came back to my mind. So yeah, I know you've been rocking with that song for a long time.
Well, I'm sure those two and Miss Me was, I'm sure, on there.
I don't remember. I know those two for
But
sure.
yeah, but no, I mean that's probably what I think for sure. And yeah, I just think those two movies sort of sync up, and I'm pretty set in that. If
Cool.
people have other opinions, they can always tell me.
Yo,
But I
let
mean,
us know, man. Let us know if we're killing it or we're not.
yep.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
so
So
episode 2, you
yeah,
go first,
I'll
dog.
start us off, bro. For Attack of the Clones, I have So Far Gone. Now this is probably the Drake album I'm least familiar with, to be honest, just due to my age and his like spot in the rap game when I started listening to him compared to when it came out. But for me,
Hmm.
it's like that album is Drake, but not fully Drake, and that movie is Star Wars, but not really Star Wars. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is like there's a lot of the elements there, but the recipe together just kind of leaves it a little bland to me, you know. Anakin hates
Yeah.
sand. That's the biggest reveal of Attack of the Clones. I hate sand. I don't like sand. And I feel like we didn't really need that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but you know,
That
Drake,
battle is unmatched though.
yes, no,
I don't
I know I'm being
know.
I'm being silly. That's I'm honestly Attack of the Clones is probably my least favorite of the prequels. I don't know how hot of a take that is or if it is at all, but I like
I
the
think
Phantom Menace more. I think oh go ahead.
no, I think a lot of people may feel that way. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't like episode one, but those are more so the old hits from like
Yeah.
4, 5, and 6. And people are always just gonna be that way, right? Like
Yeah.
new rap sucks, you know. So
I feel like, you know, just the character arc of Anakin in Attack of the Clones just doesn't work. He goes and he murders a whole village of Tusken Raiders, and we're supposed to believe that this guy is the chosen one. And
but then he's laying in a
Padme
field with
falls in love
Batman.
with him, and it's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
really attracted to go kill a bunch of people. So
You know,
it just didn't work, and it's also slightly geared towards a different demographic, both the album and the movie, because the movie skewed young. You know, it's a very watered down love story told throughout it because we had to get there, right? Padme and Anakin had to fall in love, and they fix a lot of what doesn't work in this movie in the next one. And I think Drake kind of does that with So Far Gone and Thank Me Later. But simply put, like Drake just wasn't polished yet, and I feel like this movie wasn't super polished either. So that's kind of my comparison. It's maybe my weakest argument out of all of the comparisons we're doing, but I still think it holds up.
that's fair. I mean, and like Attack of the Clones is like it's there's different scenes in there for sure, but the overarching theme I think is like how do we get the Anakin and Padme falling in love, and how do
Right.
we go from it's basically a filler in a way.
Yeah,
And
it
I
kind of
I guess
is.
I sort of agree like So Far Gone in a way has the same thing. I mean, but I guess one of the huge things that I see like a comparison with both of those is when I think of So Far Gone, I think of one song, and I
Mm,
think it was like Anakin's mentality throughout episode 2 the entire time, which is successful. Like
mm.
that song is like what I think of when I think of
Want
So Far Gone.
the money in the
And
cars. Yeah, bro.
absolutely. And I think like that is what Anakin is starting. It's not necessarily success, but he wants to be the best version of himself, but
Yeah, he wants to
his
be
best
knighted.
version too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He wants more,
He wants,
right?
yeah, he does. He feels like Anakin is like this great Jedi, and Obi-Wan's holding him back.
I may have the hottest take for episode 2,
Share it.
and
So
it's
are we?
not.
Do we agree? Do you have
Yeah,
So Far Gone for Attack of the Clones? Oh, okay.
no,
Well, what is it? First, I'll give me your
no,
hot
no.
take.
This is my hot take.
Okay.
What album I compared
Okay.
it to? Okay, take care. But listen,
What? There's no freaking
listen.
way. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll go
bud.
listen. I'll go listen.
You gotta listen.
I'll
It has
listen.
nothing to do with like comparing how good they are like to each other, right? Because Take Care is obviously like top 2 Drake albums. Top 3, okay,
3 for 3. I'm young.
whatever you say, guy. Um, but no, obviously I know like Take Care is like above most albums I've heard in
Yeah,
general.
it's
I
an
mean,
essential album to hip hop and Canadian music.
Canadian music by far, and really into the connection of not connection, but the blend of hip hop and R&B.
Yes.
Like I understand that, and
So
that's what I'm
what's your
saying. Like
parallels then?
my parallel is it's prior to Drake, sort of turning into the new Drake with Nothing Was the Same, right?
Yeah,
And it's prior to Anakin turning into Darth
Vader.
Vader,
Yeah.
and it's really the last of the live action movies that we get that, right? And so that's sort of where I was coming from with that. And it's like Drake is in his bag. Like this is the album that really sort of propelled him to where he was,
Mhm.
but he wasn't fully in his bag as a rap artist. As an artist, yes, but as a rapper, I don't think so. I think that wasn't
He
until we
was
got
like
Nothing Was the Same.
entering his prime, but not peaking.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. And I think that with Anakin too, and like regardless of like Anakin Darth Vader, like you can't tell me that the most powerful like Anakin wasn't Revenge of the Sith
Yeah.
because it was, right? Like, and
As far as
maybe
movies
there's,
go,
yeah, I was about to say, like, we were missing some with not doing like the animations and stuff like
or
that.
even
But
Vader and Kenobi.
yeah. But I think he's also hitting like a little softer and Take Care as far as like most of the songs. Obviously, Take Care has a very wide range of different stuff.
Yeah.
But we're
Take
hitting a
Care is
little
awesome.
softer. Yeah, and but we're having songs about like our mother, right? I
Yeah.
mean, what
And
song was
Shmi
that?
died. Look what you've done.
Look what you've done.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we're having songs like that.
Yeah.
And
And we had a beautiful scene dedicated towards Anakin's mother with the funeral in the movie.
you
I,
got it.
I can see your parallel. So you're more so talking like directly Anakin as related to Drake.
Yeah, because when I think of Attack of the Clones, although that's probably one of the best live action battles we have, it's not like a one-on-one like Western old samurai movie battle
Mm,
like Revenge of the Sith with Obi and Anakin, right? Like, but overall, like it's a war. That's probably one of the best battles we have. But when you think Attack of the Clones, at least for me, I think more about like the love story portion of it, and that was probably my least favorite part of it, right? But like that's what comes to mind. And like we have Marvin's Room on Take Care, right? Which is iconic for like a
plays
sappy.
Marvin's room. Yeah.
So, dude, I'm telling you, I used
I've
to
I've
listen to that
told
song on repeat.
Isaiah, I've told Isaiah like 4 or 5 times this summer. I just text him like asterisk plays Marvin's room. Like that's the
Yep,
signal.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And like, I don't know, I think Drake is becoming more of like the sad I want to be a successful rapper, like and like not sad but like hey look at me, I'm
Hungry.
from the
Yeah.
yeah. And now it's like okay, I'm not there yet but I know I'm
Yeah.
him, you know, and
Okay.
that's where
So
Anakin is too.
what's your favorite song from the album? Then I'll give my favorite song because I have a different album. Then we'll both give our movie takes.
My favorite song of this album, that's so hard, dude. Probably Look What You've Done. Maybe, but it depends on what type of mood I'm in. I haven't been in a Marvin's Room mood in years because I'm married.
Yeah, man.
But prior to being married, Marvin's Room for sure. Shot for Me, headline. I mean, I could basically name the whole album and say it's my favorite. Um,
Yeah,
maybe the motto too. But I mean, that's like probably Look What You've Done though.
that's fair. For me, with So Far Gone, I think I know this is basic, but it's kind of got to be best I ever had. Like, I listened to that album, and I think this is maybe the Drake album that's aged the worst. Which I mean, that makes sense. It was his first, like, it was his debut album. But I think that song is still a nice moment in the album. And then as far as the movie, I'll go ahead and hit mine first. My favorite part of the movie is I'm trying hard not to be like prequel Yoda doing backflips, but that's kind of it, man. Like I know some people hate it for that, but I feel like that was a fun moment and it was cool. That was our first time really seeing like Yoda in action, both chronologically and like release order. It's our first time seeing Yoda in action, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Why would you not want to see the Grandmaster Jedi fight a Sith Lord? And we also totally skipped over Count Dooku's a really good villain in this movie. Like this
Oh,
movie has its
facts.
flaws, but Christopher Lee killed it as Dooku, and I wish we could have gotten a little bit more of him in live action. So what's your favorite
I a
part?
1000% agree. Probably the battle royale, but more specifically
Yeah,
when the clone gunship is coming in and Yoda's on it.
yeah, that's
Like
awesome.
just thinking back to that specifically, it was like
Oh,
crazy as a kid.
I changed my answer to one particular moment. That Fisto smile, baby. It's,
It
it's
was
so
such a
good.
solid, yeah, 100%.
Classic.
That's such a solid moment. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different movie. It's a movie that was like our mom's favorite movie of that year. Like this,
I was
Star
1 year
Wars is
old, so
different.
I don't
Star Wars
remember.
is
But
different. So, Revenge of the Sith. It's so hard for me not to say Revenge of the South.
Revenge
And
of the South.
if you
Revenge of
don't
the
know where
South.
that comes from, then you shouldn't be watching this podcast. Just kidding.
Nah,
But
we
yeah,
welcome everyone. I'm Caleb here, bro. I'm not even Apex right now.
shout out to Apex, Revenge of the South, rapping since the basement.
Shout out to
Um,
CHH Hysteria, who once upon a time used that song as the intro to their podcast. Real ones
oh, that's
remember.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton for Revenge of the Sith written down, but I felt like it's something that would just come to me. Because I feel very strongly that there's really only one um not album. There's only one project that sort of aligns with Revenge of the Sith, and that is If You're Reading This Is Too Late.
Yes, sir.
Um, I 100% think that it is the epitome of the dark hypnotic beats that we see Drake on from time to time. But it was just the whole project, and that is the epitome of Revenge of the Sith. That is what it is. It's like a dark, like this is how he becomes into this person, this guy. And not that Drake is dark by any means, but you can't tell me that this is the same cardigan wearing Drake that we see
Uh,
nowadays,
Drake was
that we
on one when this
prior
project
to this
dropped, bro.
album.
He
Yeah.
was he was top of the he was top of the rap game. I have the same answer. I feel like this has to be the answer, but Drake was on top of the rap game because he was hearing people say he was soft from Nothing Was the Same. Nothing Was the Same was this weird mix of R&B and these soft melodies, and rappers didn't like that. So Drake said, "Hey, bet I got you," and he turned around and dropped the hardest tape of the decade. It's honestly my favorite mixtape ever. And I think it's kind of valid. I feel like when people think about Drake, they don't think about him as an aggressive rapper, but that's exactly what he brought with this project. And that's exactly what Revenge of the Sith is. It's very aggressive. It's very like fierce. And to go back to your previous point and the last project about Anakin and Drake kind of being one and the same. I think this mirrors that perfectly because Drake came with something to prove. Anakin obviously came with something to prove. It's very intense from start to finish. And yeah, it is a little darker. It's a lot darker in the case of Star Wars. It is Revenge of the Sith, definitely the darkest movie. But so good. It's my favorite Star Wars movie, man. Like you mentioned, I have a mixtape called Revenge of the Sith that I actually plan on remastering and re-releasing soon.
Oh
um,
shoot.
yeah, so that's going to be really fun, but it holds up in 2022. Not my project. I mean, my project does, but I mean, the movie and Drake's project holds up in 2022. And I don't think you can say that for everything, especially from the prequel era. But man, Revenge of the Sith was really like trailblazing because you kind of had like we all kind of knew, like the Star Wars fans knew what was going to happen in this movie, but we didn't know how it was going to happen. And to have that different level of suspense than in any other movie was so cool to see them bridge the gap, excuse me, and they did it so well, man. So
And it had to live up to it, right?
it had to
Like,
live up to it. It was the cap off of the 6 movie saga before the sequels came along, and now you can count the sequels or you cannot. I don't care. I'm not huge on the sequels, but like this movie capped off the Skywalker
yeah,
saga.
absolutely. And it's like the end slash beginning, it's like the transition piece, right?
It
And
is.
like to me, obviously, like we'll get into honestly Nevermind and CLB and stuff like that, but it really is like a transition piece to the way the world started to see Drake, right? And like
Yeah.
you started seeing him dug it out more, right? Like he
Yeah.
started
He was,
rolling deeper and
yeah,
talking more about
put it
like
on more of the hard rap persona.
yeah, instead of miss me a little when I'm gone, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's 20 of you, you know, like it's a
It's no
very
more Marvin's room.
right. No, never.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and it's like, this is who they created. Right. And
Yeah.
this is what all the trial and the trauma and the tribulations
Yeah.
and whatever, that's what was created, like in Revenge of the Sith.
Mhm.
Like, that was the creation of that. And like,
The
this is sort
industry.
of, yeah, the Drake's, like, who he is after being in the industry for a while.
Yeah, this is what a lot of people will call this prime Drake. I think it's certainly prime rapper Drake. I think that's a fair thing to say. Uh, I think Nothing Was the Same is still my favorite Drake project, but the reason I said Take Care was three is because this one's number two to me.
Mhm.
They're all like honestly, they're all tens, I think, and maybe that's a
Nope.
super hot take. But what's not 10?
No,
This
no.
this project?
Aphex once did album of the year, and for 2014, what did you pick?
Well, this project came out in 2015.
Oh yeah, that's right. What did you pick for 2015?
I don't remember.
It
This
wasn't Nothing Was the Same.
well that's 2013, and it was Nothing Was the Same.
Okay, well,
I think
we'll
this
see.
was the we'll have to check the tape, but there's certainly a Drake album I missed, and this man let me know about it.
Yes, there was one you missed, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
If you're reading this, it's too late.
Yeah,
Man, I got the merch because this is where the Six God logo came from, right? This project.
6 p.m. In New York.
6 p.m. in New York. Yeah, what's your favorite moment from let's go album first or mixtape first.
Hold on, you go first if you know.
Okay. So I'll go first. My favorite moment from let's go mixtape first. If you're reading this, is too late. There's so many good ones, bro. I feel like it's more so just the memories made while listening to this
Oh
project.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember, bro, very vividly. I remember you, me, and Jaden riding around Roanoke, listening to Preach, and man, like, not that Preach is my favorite song on the album or anything. Star 67 is, but that day is just embedded in my mind from when I was 13, 14 years old, bro. Like those are the moments, the little moments in life that I hold on to.
I think this is the album that has the most memories associated with it. And I
Yeah.
think this is, to me, the movie that has the most memories
Oh
associated
yeah.
with it as well, because it was just like that time period. Whereas, like, we had Reagan and Maggie, and everybody was into
Yeah.
Star Wars, and like,
And bro, to keep
I
it
was of age.
to bring it back to the project for a minute, like this was all we would play on our way back from open gym. In your Mustang, in your yellow Mustang, we would play this project.
So, and that's the 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the year after. So I was actually in school when this came out, and then I moved back to the house, and yeah, dude. I mean, I was going in between Virginia Beach and Roanoke like
Yeah.
every weekend, and like this is the album that would mostly be playing. Like I remember at one point, Jaden had Legend as like my
Yeah.
ringtone on his phone. No, he had Energy as my ringtone on his phone, and then he said, "At your funeral, I'm gonna play Legend," and I was like, "That's crazy, bro! Like that's so funny." But I remember like being in the Escalade
Yeah.
with
Throwback.
well, first off, that night with you, Jaden, was probably the most vivid memory of these,
Yeah.
like this album, And Star 67, the amount of times me and you listen to that and
Mm,
Wednesday Night Interlude when I would come to
yeah,
Mountain Pass, like that for sure, like top 10 moments of my
I
life.
could quote Star 67 right now from front to back.
Absolutely, bro. I mean, Jungle, how about now, even if we're
Yeah,
going extended? But I mean, yeah, I don't know if I could pick one.
it's hard.
Um, 10 bands I remember
Yes.
I was in my Escalade and I was 6 or 7 people deep, just
Yeah.
all the boys. And we were on our way to Richmond and Jaden was masked up and we were just acting the fool. I
Yeah.
had my goblet in my Escalade and it was full of money and I just thought I was I
That's
thought I
so
was
cool.
him, bro.
19-year-old.
Dude, I thought I was him. But it was no, that moment, and then of course, like one of the nights we were at the house, I think we actually recorded a little something something, and it was Wednesday Night Interlude that I was listening to with you.
Yeah, that
And
next summer,
yeah.
2016. Yeah.
See, and that's the thing with this album. Like I could go to this and I keep calling it an album, but you know what I mean.
Yes, the
I could
project.
go to this and I could listen to this front to back.
That's what I'm saying. It stands the test of time.
And
Like,
I could do that with Nothing Was the Same. I think Nothing Was the
yes,
Same was a better project, but
yes.
this for some reason has more listenability to me.
It's
Like,
like a easier listen almost. It's
yeah,
less dramatic, more energetic.
Nothing Was the Same as a mood, right?
Yeah. So it,
So
and bro, like to that point of it holding up, um, throughout the whole quarantine, and Canada was quarantined for freaking ever. But throughout the first year of quarantine, me and Damon were working on my album, and uh, I would show him 10 bands. I'd be like, yo, you have to listen to this, bro. And we would listen to this project on our way from my house to his house, like at least like, I don't know, every other time.
I think I don't know, bro. Like I'm just getting like nostalgia for sure
Yeah, for
because
sure. And so to circle back to the movie, like I think the comparisons are more than fair. I think this is gonna be the most agreed upon. I feel like it can't really be a different project, but this movie has the, like almost all the same moods, bro. Like you do have the dramatic jungle, and you have like the scenes with Padme, the super dramatic Anakin going to the temple, Padme watching the temple go up in smoke from her
yeah,
pad. Like you have those super
yes.
dramatic moments that it really pulls you in, especially with the updated version with Palpatine's voice echoing in the background. Oh, fire. And then you have those moments in the project too with Jungle, and even like the last verse of Star 67. Now I'm blowing up.
I
Like
was
it's so deep.
I was just thinking the jungle.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
actually
that's
just listened to Jungle yesterday because I've been listening to a lot of Drake to prepare for this, and um, yeah, this project holds up, man.
See, I've been doing the opposite. I've been watching the Star Wars movies, and I don't. I I texted you last night. Harley was very adamant that I'd seen it before. You also were very adamant that I'd seen it before,
Yeah,
but I did not remember seeing Solo like at all. And I watched it last night, and I know exactly what I'm comparing it to. So when we get to that, you guys are gonna be maybe a little shocked, but
yeah.
um, no, I mean, I 100% think that there's no other take that you could do Revenge of the Sith in a different album, but maybe I'm wrong. Um, yeah,
We'll see. Let us know in the comments. I think we're gonna go ahead and call it. I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up there for the first part. So if you enjoyed our prequels to Drake projects, video, podcast, however you're listening to this, however you're consuming it, if you enjoyed it, let us know. We will be back. Honestly, we'll probably post back-to-back days whenever we release all of this. So we'll probably be back tomorrow around the same time that this goes up. Leave us a comment or give us a follow. We don't have social media set up for the podcast yet, but you can follow me on all platforms at Apex Frazier. Trevor, where can they follow you?
All platforms at Apex Frazier.
There we go. There we go. All right. Well, talk to you soon, guys. Peace.
Peace.